Okay, so here's a short version of G-code. Now, Sigma-Nest, Merrimack, two programs that we use to write G-code. The difference between them is Sigma-Nest has all these notes at the top, Merrimack does not. Okay, Merrimack will start, the top of the program will be typically an M102. So, Sigma-Nest lets you know what the program name is, what material you're cutting it out of, the thickness of that material, and your sheet size. After that, you get M102. What an M102 does is it loads the material profile that follows it in parentheses. So it would load C-SS 0.060. Now, you have to make sure that it is spelled correctly or typed out correctly, however you want to look at it, on the laser. Because if it reads something that's a little bit different, say that you have this 0 right here, and that is an O, it looks the same, but it will not load it. It'll give you an alarm saying that there's no material registered. So just make sure it's spelled correctly. Next line, G90, G92. What this line does is it tells the laser where the head is at. Now, in Sigma-Nest, we have it set up so that way it will write the code correctly with the current home position, where it is at X of 0, Y of 49.213. Merrimack, it wrote programs for when we had our old home position, when it was X49, Y49. So you need to look at this line and make sure that it says X 0.0, Y 49.213. Otherwise, you're going to get an over travel negative X alarm. So if it has X49, Y49, just delete the line out. It'll be okay. Next thing, M100. That tells the laser to turn on. It's not the machine turning on. It is the laser beam. Now, it's just getting ready to cut. I don't know. It's hard to explain exactly what it does. But if there's not an M100, the laser beam will not ignite, and it will not start cutting. It will go through the motions, like the laser head will move, and it'll be like it's trying to cut, but it will not cut. So make sure the M100 is in there. Next line. Now, I don't know everything about this, but I have a general idea of what's going to happen. G00, G42. And then then there's an X coordinate and a Y coordinate. That is just telling the laser to go to that X and Y. Okay? E5. That is the cutting condition. Now, depending on what you're cutting, it will dictate what condition you need to use. There are some programs, like rotors, that the cutting condition changes 3 times throughout the program, for piercing and then for cutting. So you need to make sure that that your E code is correct for what you're trying to do. Next line, M103A0. Now, M103, that tells the laser head to come down and start cutting. But it'll tell it to come down, pierce, and then start cutting. The A0, it gets rid of the pierce cycle. It does something called piercing on the fly. So as soon as the laser head is down to start cutting, it will cut right away, rather than trying to pierce through the material first. Now, this works out really nicely for motorcycle grills and truck grills and stuff, because it speeds up the process immensely, because you're eliminating the pierce time. Now, the next thing you're looking for is an M104. That is the opposite of an M103. It tells the laser head to lift up. So that is the out after the cutout. So M103A0 all the way down to an M104, that is one single cutout. What happens in between, I really don't care. What I'm concerned about is that it comes down, starts cutting, does its thing, and lifts up. Then you'll notice that it has a G00, G42 line, some X and Y, M103A0, and then a big block of code down to an M104. That is the second cutout. Okay? Now, at the very bottom of the code, we have a few more things. Again, there's our M104. That is lifting up after the outside of the last cutout, of the last part. G00, G40. Not quite sure what that one does. I'm just going to skip it. M101. That does the opposite of an M100. That tells the laser beam that you're no longer going to be cutting. You can turn off now. Again, not the machine, the laser beam itself. And after that, G50. The G50 tells the laser to retract and go home. Okay? That is the end of the program. If you try to search for a G50 and it's not in the program, that chances are you did not load the complete program, or there's a loop or other problems. But I'm not going to go into detail at that time. So, quick recap. Notes, that mean nothing to the laser, but that tells us what we're doing. M102, loads the material. Now, if you want to have a material loaded, like you want to change the material, say like on a bezel, you don't have to, you can manually select the material, but as soon as it reads an M102, it will change it. So if you select what material you want, and you're sure that that's what you're going to do, delete that line, and you'll be okay. G0, G90, G90, G92, X0, Y49.213, that is where the laser head is at. Okay? If the laser head is not at that coordinate, it will throw an alarm eventually, if it doesn't right away. M100 tells the laser beam to turn on. Okay? It's going to start cutting. This next line tells it to go somewhere. Again, don't really care where, but it tells it to go somewhere. E5. That is what cutting condition to use. M103A0, come down, start cutting. All the way down to the M104, that is lifting up. Now, if you look at, I don't know, this line right here, you'll notice that there's an X coordinate, a Y coordinate, and then you get an I of I-0.01, J-0.013. That is something to do with circles and radiuses. Not quite sure exactly what it does, but I know that that's what it is doing. So this one, it'll be a straight line. This one, it'll have some sort of arc in it.